really erase? Still hasn't erased. I don't think it erases even like this, you know? Today we're going to answer a question that seems simple, but it's not. When we delete a file, where does it go? Does the so-called trash bin really exist? Does a file take up space? Watch until the end for an experiment where we create a hard drive using a refrigerator magnet or something similar. The main thing to understand how a file disappears is to find out how it is stored. So today we're going to try to show in a very simple way how the computer stores a text, a photo, a video. And when we talk about digital storage, there are people who understand this very well, like the sponsor of this video, Hostinger, which hosts millions of websites worldwide, over 600,000 just in Brazil. We used to store information on paper. Writing letters on paper differs from typing on a computer. This here is the letter A for me, for you, for the computer, it's just like this. Obviously, a letter A. I know you think the computer is super smart. Nowadays, the generative pre-training chat even answers existential doubts. If the orange is called orange, why isn't the lemon called green? But the truth is that the computer only understands 0 and 1, on or off, which is what we call binary code because you only have two types of information. So here 0 is off and 1 is on. Want to see what the letter B looks like? The letter C? Any information can be written in a specific way. For instance, a picture is made up of many dots when zoomed in. Writing a blue dot requires a particular method. Big, right? Since there are many more types of colors than types of letters, we need a lot of space to define a pixel, a blue dot. So in this case, I'm using 24 spaces to tell the computer that I have here a blue dot. Imagine then the space that a video takes up, which are several photos in sequence, one photo after another. And that's why Hostinger has entire buildings full of computers spread all over the world to store websites, photos, kitten videos. It's so much space, but it's so much space that if we were to store this on paper, we would need 4,000 tons of paper for each terabyte of file. And they have servers with hundreds of terabytes. Okay, but if it's not paper, how are all these zeros and ones recorded? How does the computer actually store these files in practice? Can we open it up and see the zeros and ones inside the computer? Not nowadays, but it used to be possible, you know. One of the first places where information was recorded on the computer were punch cards. So it was a real paper card where the holes represented those zeros and ones. This here is a real punch card. In this case, it's not punched, but it was a card that was really used at the time. But we also made a punch card on Manual do Mundo. Just to give an example, I'm going to make the letter A on the card. The 0 is where it's not punched, because 0 is usually off, right? The 1 will be where the hole is. So I'm making the holes here. You must have imagined that back in the day, they didn't exactly punch the card this way, right? But what I wanted to show is that this binary way of representing information, it can be used in many different ways. On paper, we use 1 for a hole and 0 for no hole. I have the letter A written here, twice. CDs are a more modern recording method that follows the same logic as older formats. CDs aren't exactly modern, but they're more modern than punched paper. If we open a device that can read a CD, you will see that inside there is a little laser cannon that releases a very thin thread of light and a sensor that receives that light after it has been reflected on the CD. So imagine there's a cannon that hits the CD and reflects on the sensor. But depending on the surface of the CD, it can either deflect the light and then the sensor doesn't see it, or it can simply not reflect the light. So you write in the end in a way very similar to the punched card. There are times when the light arrives, or the light doesn't arrive, or the light arrives, or the light doesn't arrive. It's like 0 and 1. Shall we try to see it under the microscope? The secret of the CD is that this information is stored in a very tiny way. Thus, the tracks, the paths that the laser travels on the disc are extremely narrow. So even under the microscope, it's not easy for us to see. Ah, ha 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 ha. You can notice that there is a diagonal pattern, which are the writing lines of the CD, and there are a bunch of white and black dots, which are the points where the CD reflects, or where it does not reflect. This here is at an absurdly small size. I put it here at 100 times magnification and still multiplied it by 30. We're looking at this here at a 3,000 times magnification, so we can see it. Can you imagine the precision of the device to be able to read these lines? I can remove a little bit here, this glass of his that's bothering me. I knew it. Here we can see the lines clearly and that there are little white dots in darker spaces. Exactly the way we have it on the punched card. I got another position here with a slightly different image, but you see something that looks like a paper towel texture. So exactly the lines that are read by the laser. If you've never seen this image anywhere, I would already give a thumbs up to this video. Go ahead, it was worth you clicking. And the rewritable CD, that CD that not only could you record on it, you could also record over it. Think that the CD is practically the same thing as the punched card, it just reflects and doesn't reflect. With the laser, you could pass over it, then there was a special resin here, and you could make points reflect or not reflect. And if you passed a laser at a slightly higher temperature, it would go back to 0, it would become new again, ready for you to record over it. Everything is very beautiful so far, but the problem is that most files are not stored this way. Probably the most common way to store files to this day is magnetic, which basically, instead of making a hole or not, you turn the magnet up and down. Strange, right? But there's a really cool experiment that shows this. Just look, you can do this at home, you can do it at the science fair. It's a strip with several pieces of refrigerator magnet. You can buy that blanket that you can cut out. The refrigerator magnet stores the information, while another magnet records it. This here is a recording head if it were a hard drive, for example. And the one who reads it is also a magnet, in this case this little magnet that's hanging by a thread. Look how cool. Let's start then by recording the information 000001 on an empty disk. I come here with my recorder, which is a magnet, and I keep passing it over the other magnets, always in the position with the black side facing up. What am I doing here? In this refrigerator magnet, there are very tiny magnets that orient themselves when I pass this larger magnet over them. They change position. So theoretically now, all these magnets are in the same position, with the north and south facing the same side. Let's pass it through the reader now to see if it worked. In the first little square, I have black, 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 black. Ah, I managed to record, huh? Everything is black. It's like it's 0000. It's like this card here without filling anything. At this point in the game, it's already obvious how I would record the letter A on this little hard drive of mine. It starts with 0, then goes the black part of the magnet, but in the second position I have the 1, which is the on. In this case here, it's the red. Here, I'll pass the red. It stays 0, and the final position is red again. Let's read now. Black, which is 0, red, which is 1, black, 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 red. That's exactly what used to happen inside a floppy disk. Yes, if you don't know, this is the old-fashioned flash drive. In most applications, this is the save button. Here, I have a 3D save button in my hand. Inside it, we have a plastic disc, but it has magnetic particles, and it works in the way I just showed you, only it's microscopic. There is a little head that passes there, an electromagnet that marks, and a sensor that reads. But that's also what happens inside the hard drive inside the hard drive. We have this beautiful metallic disc here, but it is nothing more than a magnetic track. It's a disc that has a bunch of these microscopic squares here, with a red and right head. That is at the tip there, it has both recording and reading. And when it wants to find information, it keeps reading the magnetic dots that are there. Now imagine with me, the technology you need for this to store a lot of information. To store zillions of these dots and not lose the data. First of all, these markings, they're going to be microscopic on a level that I can't see here on my microscope, not even if pigs could fly. It's very tiny. Second, this disc spins extremely fast, so you can quickly get the information there, get an absurd amount of information. And third, this reading head, this little magnet that is there on top reading or writing, has to move crazily, with great precision to find the right track. All of this is done within a closed, sealed structure to prevent anyone from putting their finger there and messing everything up. If you were smart, you noticed a big difference between the punch card and this here. I mean, of course you notice several big differences, but one main difference is that it's very easy for you to rewrite the information. I just have to move the magnet to another position here, and I change what was written. What is 0 becomes 1. What is 1 becomes 0 easily. You can rewrite over it as many times as desired. Ah, but Iberay, so that's how you erase the data. You record over it. And yes, ready, I discovered I won't need to watch until the end of the video. You'll notice a small yet dangerous trick there. To finish the most common types of places where you can save files, we have memory cards, we have SSDs, which are those hard drives or places where you can save where nothing moves inside. This is in solid state drive for my broken laptop. Let's open it using a screwdriver since I don't have the special Torx key. Inside the large aluminum shell are two small chips, similar to a memory card. It's impressive, but how does it store data? It works more or less like this poppet. You have several microscopic spaces where you can put or remove electrons. And the moment you put an electron, you establish that there is full or that there is worth one. And when you don't have any electrons, it's worth nothing, just like we're seeing on the blackboard. So once again, to write the letter A, I put an electron here and an electron here. The big difference here is that for me to read this information, to know if it's 0 or 1, I can do this through electric current, through electricity. I don't need to move anything. And then it turns out that this chip for you to use in a laptop, use in a cell phone, is much safer than this disk, which if you drop on the floor, it can misalign anything and stop working. But Habaron, you've already explained how to delete these files thoroughly enough. I think I'm beginning to understand now. Yes, I think it became obvious how to delete a file in a case like this, right? You simply revert the poppet and it's clean again. If it were on the magnetic, I would simply pass the magnet on the black side of everything and then I zeroed. Everything is on the same side. Alright, you can do it that way, but it's not at all deficient. You must clean a huge area. Cleaning the file is time-consuming and labor-intensive, essentially equivalent to rewriting a file of that size. You've already understood that if you have a photo or a video on the computer, it's going to be a giant sequence of zeros and ones, right? That's going to be recorded here, that's going to be recorded here, etc. When it's erased, the computer simply puts a notice there. You can erase this section. What does that mean? The computer is no longer going to consider that piece that's written there. When you ask how much memory you have and such, it disregards that there's a file here. If it needs memory, it will write over it because it can erase this section, but the file hasn't disappeared. It's still there. That's right, it doesn't erase. Even if you delete the file inside the trash, it simply puts a notice there that that space can be occupied, but the data, the zeros and ones are still there. To read that file again, you must install a special program to fetch it. Otherwise, you risk losing the file, because something might have been written over it. You've lost some 0s and 1s that were there, which will mess everything up, so you have to be careful. When you sell a laptop, when you donate a cell phone, because your data, even though you've erased it, they might still be there. For us who have more homemade data, this is not such a crucial issue, but imagine for an industry. The text contains sensitive secrets that must be kept strictly confidential and not shared with anyone. It's not a technical limitation. You will have some programs, some more advanced commands. You can indeed go there and clean every little space, but that's going to be quite time consuming. The easy and quick way to do this is this one here. Aim that fire a little more over there, because if it doesn't hit the hard drive, it won't lose the data. No. Even though this thing is kind of scary, thinking that the file isn't really deleted, it's even scarier when we actually lose a file. I just showed here that there are ways to recover, but we also saw that it's not guaranteed, so the ideal is always to have a backup. Today we often discuss storing data in the cloud, which essentially means backing up your files on a remote computer via the internet. When you talk about a website, this is even more important because besides losing the system, the website itself, you can lose all the sales information that's inside, for example. Beyond just a copy, you need what people refer to as redundancy. On Hostinger's servers, there's always an identical copy of the website working together. If the original site has any problem, some disk failure and such, the copy immediately takes over. This is so automatic that people don't even realize it happened. It's like a guarantee. If you're looking to build an online store, blog, or website, take advantage of Hostinger's ongoing mega sale. They've lowered all the prices on the site, and there's even a coupon. Using Manual de Mundo gives you a 10% discount. If you want to build a website but thought it's complicated and requires programming, relax. They have an artificial intelligence tool where you answer 3 questions, and the website is ready. The link to learn more about Hostinger is in the description. I thought it was going to float so I could grab it again, but Heberin was going to explode the battery. I removed the battery before, right? For the love of God.
The name orange comes from the Sanskrit naranga, which referred to the fruit. Lemon comes from the Persian limo.
The names are not based on color logic, but rather the word's origins.
Yeah, you didn't explain it well, but anyway. 7-0 for the computer. Now go, 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 go. Will it come out like magnetic fishing? We have already explained in a much more comprehensive way how it is possible to store information with this bunch of zeros and ones. So I'm leaving the video here where we explain why after all the memories of computers have 16, 64, 128, and not rounder numbers like 100, 200, 300,